Good evening and welcome to Primetime News, coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. I'm Bernadine Jai Singha. Let's now take a look at headlines.
President appoints Presidential Task Force headed by Venerable Galagodatte Gnanasarathera to create one country, one law. President addresses the international community on Sri Lanka's attempts to adapt to organic farming. Global testing organizations retesting samples of Chinese fertilizer will discredit the country. A statement from the National Plant Quarantine Service. Protesting teachers and police clash. Will electricity trade unions launch a trade union action?
Maintenance කටයුතු නඩත්තු කටයුතු කවුරුවක්වත් කරන්නේ නැහැ. ඔක්කොම කොළඹට එනවා. අපි ආණ්ඩුව දැනගස්සලා මේක උසවයින් කරමු.
Brazil senators support criminal charges for Jair Bolsonaro over COVID crisis.
A presidential task force has been set up on one country, one law. Venerable Galagodatte Gnanasarathera has been appointed as its chairman.
The President had published a gazette last night on establishing a presidential task force for one country, one law. 13 members have been appointed to the task force led by Venerable Galagodatte Gnanasarathera. The other members of the task force are Professor Dayananda Banda, Professor Shanti Nandana Vijayasinghe, Professor Sumedha Siriwardana, N.G. Sujeeva Panditaratna, Attorney at Law Iresh Senaviratna, Attorney at Law Sanjay Marambe, Eranda Navaratna, Pani Vavala, Maulavi Mohammed, Lecturer Mohammed Intikhab, Khalil Rahman and Aziz Nizardeen. The task force has been asked to study the concept of one country, one law in Sri Lanka and to prepare a draft act on implementing it. It has also been asked to study the draft acts of the Justice Ministry and to propose suitable amendments in this regard.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa today informed the United Nations that Sri Lanka has taken the lead in minimizing the use of artificial fertilizers to resolve health-related concerns and reduce the nitrogen waste.
The President shared these remarks while attending a discussion headed by Secretary-General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, at the UN headquarters in New York, via video conferencing.
We have ensured that Sri Lanka's domestic policy framework has a focus on sustainability. To give effect to this, we are taking steps to limit overuse of artificial fertilizers, thereby addressing health concerns as well as helping reduce nitrogen waste. Our nationally determined contributions targets achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. On the energy side, we aim to increase the contribution of renewable energy sources to 70% of national energy needs by 2030. We are also working towards enhancing national forest cover. To achieve these laudable objectives, Sri Lanka welcomes assistance through technology transfers, skills development, investment and financing support for our sustainable development agenda. We reiterate that developed nations must fulfill their commitments to help the planet heal. Developing countries need meaningful, multilateral and bilateral support to implement climate change mitigation and adaptation activities. This will create new opportunities for green growth that enhances future prosperity. The time to act is now.
Agriculture Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage says the fertilizer shipped by a Chinese company to Sri Lanka won't be retested. But he says fertilizer samples prepared in line with Sri Lanka's standards will be tested by a third party agreed by both sides.
The National Plant Quarantine Service detected harmful bacteria twice in samples of organic fertilizer manufactured by China's Qingdao Seawind Biotech company. But the Hippo Spirit ship had left for Colombo from China's Qingdao port on the 23rd of September. It was carrying 20,000 metric tons of fertilizer at the time. The Agriculture Ministry had rejected the fertilizer as it contained harmful bacteria and then instructed to deny entry for the ship at the Colombo port. But the ship is now in Sri Lanka's southern waters after changing its name to Sayo Explorer. This can be confirmed on international vessel monitoring systems, but the ship cannot change its identification number, although it may change its name. Will Sri Lanka accept this ship?
We won't allow the ship to enter. We won't test samples from this ship either. We won't pay for this shipment either. According to our tender agreement, we will accept the fertilizer and make the payments only if it meets our specifications.
But in a statement, Qingdao Seawind Biotech Limited says the samples would be tested again by a third party. It adds Sri Lanka must unconditionally accept the fertilizer on the ship if tests show that there is no harmful bacteria. The Chinese company says it will blacklist People's Bank, which has opened letters of credit if the payment is not made. But the Colombo Commercial High Court has issued an order preventing payments being made to the Chinese company. The Chinese ambassador has also summoned the State Minister of Agriculture, the Agriculture Secretary and the Director General of Agriculture and discussed this matter.
The shipment of 20,000 metric tons of fertilizer is worth $8 million. Only 75% of it would be paid through letters of credit. We have placed a deposit of $5 million. Therefore, the problem is regarding the balance of about $1 million. The court order has suspended the payment of $1.7 million. But above all of this, we won't allow this bacteria to enter our country.
අපිට තියෙන්නේ ඔක්කොටම වැඩිය මේ ඉන්න බැක්ටීරියා එක අපේ රටට ගේන්න බෑ.
නමුත් දැන් මෙතන ආබිට්‍රේෂන් එකක් ගියොත් ඔය කියන ගානට වඩා ගානක් ගෙවන්න
ඉතින් ඒගොල්ලෝ ආබිට්‍රේෂන් එකට ගියාම මොකද වෙන්නේ? අපිට ප්‍රශ්න නැහැ. අපේ ස්පෙસિෆිකේෂන් එක ඇතුලේ මේ පොහොර නැත්තම් මොකද්ද අපිට තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ?
නමුත් මේ සත්‍යනාල පක්ෂවතුමා දැන් ඔබතුමා මෙතනදී කටයුතු කරලා තියෙන්නේ රාජ්‍යතාන්ත්‍රික පිළිවෙතින් බැහැරවනේ. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් තානාපතිවරයෙක් කැඳවාවීමක් කරන්නේ නැහනේ. අමාත්‍යවරයෙක්ව තමන්ගේ තානාපති කාර්යාලයට.
ඒක මේ කැඳවීමක් කරේ නැහැ.
We were not summoned. We want to resolve this problem cordially. It was just for clarification. China is a country that has been there for us and not just for fertilizer. They showed a lot of enthusiasm in sending us vaccines as well. Therefore, we have a responsibility to explain our side of the story.
තියෙනවා මේකේ තියෙන අපේ පැත්ත පැහැදිලි කරලා දෙන්න.
නෑ මුතුවා දැන් ඒ ලෙටර් එකේම තියෙනවා මහජන බැංකුව බ්ලැක් ලිස්ට් කරනවා. තර්ජනාත්මක
කවුද ඒක එවලා තියෙන්නේ?
ඒ සමාගම.
සමාගමට පුළුවන් ද මහජන බැංකුව බ්ලැක් ලිස්ට් කරන්න?
Can that company blacklist the People's Bank? They can level threats. But understand this. This is a prominent company. There is a problem regarding their credibility.
ඒගොල්ලෝ ප්‍රධාන සමාගමක්. ඒගොල්ලන්ට credibility ප්‍රශ්නයක් මෙතන තියෙනවා.
Why did authorities agree to conduct a third test, while the National Plant Quarantine Service had confirmed the presence of harmful bacteria twice?
We won't allow a third party to test what is on the ship. We said we have rejected that. We asked them to manufacture it again. Let me explain this in simple terms. We won't accept a dress sewn by a tailor if it doesn't fit our size. We will return it. Similarly, we have asked them to give us what we want.
එතකොට මම කරන්නේ මොකද ආයෙක දීලා ඉවිල කියනවා මට ඕන විදිහට හදන්න මහන්නේ කියලා. ඒ වැඩේ තමයි අපි කිව්වේ.
මේ වෙන නිවේදනයෙන් මේගොල්ලෝ තාම බලපත්‍රල විදියට අපේ ශාක කලාටි ශාක නිරෝධායන ක්‍රමවේද විවේචනය කරනවා. මේක යුරෝපියන් ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ් එකක් කියලා ලංකාවේ ආයතන.
ඉතින් ඒ සමාගමට ඕනේ ලියුමක් ලියන්න ගැන අපට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ.
මේ දැන් ඔබතුමාලා දැන් කලාටි නිරෝධායනයකට උත්තර දෙන්න බෑ.
නෑ අපි උත්තර දෙන්න බැඳිලා නැහැ. නෑ අපිට උත්තර දෙන්න බැඳිලා නැහැ. අපේ ක්වොරන්ටයින් එක අපි උත්තර දෙන්නෙත් නැහැ. අපි බැඳිලත් නැහැ.
The Sri Lanka National Plant Quarantine Service says the decision to allow an international body to retest Chinese fertilizer samples, despite it carrying out its own formal test, will bring disrepute to the nation and that it regrets this development. The National Plant Quarantine Service says this decision could directly affect Sri Lanka's export sector. Why is there an obstinate need to import the Chinese fertilizer, disregarding the decision of even the National Plant Quarantine Service? Who is behind this transaction? In an article published on the 19th of September, the Sunday Times revealed a company named Chelina Capital Corporation Private Limited is acting as the local agent of China's Qingdao Seawind Biotech Group. Information of those employed at the local agent's office is revealed through a letter addressed on the 22nd of October to the Director General of Agriculture by the Chinese firm. According to the letter, an individual named Lolita Abesinghe serves as the chairman of Chelina Capital Corporation. Political and other influences within this deal begin to emerge when inquiring into the chairman's kinship. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa says the agreed fertilizer importation from China puts Sri Lanka's sovereignty in danger.
There is an attempt to import the same fertilizer that was deemed unsuitable by the plant quarantine service. I view that as imperialism fueled by multinational companies. Not only that, various countries also exert their influence on us. When the plant quarantine service in our country continuously says that this fertilizer contains the Erwinia bacteria, vessels carrying this fertilizer try to enter the country by force. Although the vessel has changed its name, the International Maritime Organization number has not been changed. They are trying to enter the Sea of Sri Lanka by switching off their transponders. I have one question to ask. Whose responsibility is it if these foreign companies are behaving in such an unruly manner? Will the sovereignty of our country be upheld after this? Where is patriotism in this country? How can such a multinational company exert pressure on our country? Aren't the officers at the plant quarantine service in Sri Lanka qualified officials? Have they submitted false test results? Why do you wish to downgrade our state sector officials like this? We have to honor them for the service they render to this nation.
අපි අපේ රාජ්‍ය සේවය මේ වගේ බාල්දු කරන්න හොඳ නැහැ. අපේ ගරුත්වය අපි ලබා දෙන්නට ඕන.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa expressed these views when he donated a state-of-the-art scanner for the Castle Street Hospital for Women under the Breath of Fresh Air from the Opposition initiative. The donation was made in line with the 87th birthday celebration of Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa's mother, Hema Premadasa. Former President Maithripala Sirisena says the involvement of a third party to carry out tests on the Chinese fertilizer will not be necessary.
Not only China, but even Balochistan dumps a grain of sand on our country by force if it's wrong. If tests have been carried out in this regard and recommendations have been issued in this regard, that is what we should accept. Third parties are not necessary for such matters. You will need third parties when it comes to warfare. When two nations have announced war, a third party will intervene to instill peace. This is a matter pertaining to fertilizer. This is something we buy from the market.
While the Chinese fertilizer deal has questioned the standard of our nation's plant quarantine service, which consists of our own intellectuals, a ranking report issued by a top university brings to light the intellectual prowess of our erudites. According to the Stanford University in the US, 24 Sri Lankans make up the top 2% of the world's best scientists. Among them are Professor Neelika Malavige, Professor Methika Vithanage and Dr. Anushka U. Rajapaksa from the University of Sri Jayewardenepura. There are 24 scientists ranked in this world's top 2% scientists list from various institutes. They are the University of Sri Jayewardenepura, International Water Management Institute, University of Peradeniya, Waimbah University of Sri Lanka, the University of Colombo, University of Kelaniya and the University of Jaffna. Minister Dayasiru Jayasekara also expressed his views regarding the fertilizer crisis in the country. It was a group including who gave instructions to implement this. At present, we are suffering the consequences of their actions. China has no authority to give its fertilizer to Sri Lanka by force. Approaching this through a third party is also wrong. No one can dump fertilizer on our country by force. This is similar to the incident where India dropped packets of lentils in the north. This will harm the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of our country. We are clearly against this move where Chinese garbage is going to be dumped in Sri Lanka instead of searching for alternatives for the fertilizer crisis in the country.
Meanwhile, the Professionals National Front, including the Government Medical Officers Association, has criticized the implementation of the fertilizer policy.
China is controlling us. The ministers don't understand that. Until this problem is addressed, we won't be able to cultivate even potatoes in the country. This is the situation. There are many people who receive commissions, but the proper method would be to manufacture organic fertilizer locally. If the president doesn't know that, someone must say it to him. Otherwise, seek the opinion of experts. There are many professionals. There are people who have worked in this field. Do not sell this country to businessmen. Those who spoke about this have been removed from their posts. We wish to tell the minister that this is not the method. He must resign. The minister does not have the backbone to tell China to take back its stocks.
This is how the president of the Government Medical Officers Association, Dr. Anuruddha Pradeniya, advised on how comments should be made at the media briefing. This would be similar to a way of attaining enlightenment through various means. That can't be done. As a doctor, Dr. Pradeniya will definitely advise that the use of chemicals must be reduced. That's correct. But if it is implemented as a national policy, we can't point fingers at anyone. The government has a plan.
The crisis surrounding fertilizer and pesticides hasn't been resolved yet. Farmers staged several protests demanding the government to pay attention to the problem. Farmers of Migalaba in the Mahavali H zone who cultivate using water from the Kala Ababa staged 2 protest marches from the Medin Norua junction. Shashindra Rajapaksa had gone and discussed this. He had agreed to retest the samples at a third-party institution who is being ridiculed by this decision. It's the scientists, scientific institutions and research bodies. They have accepted that the findings of scientists are false. This shows where the government is heading. They are importing nano-urea from India by saying it's nano-nitrogen. They are obtaining commissions through this. They are looting through this as well. From China, they are bringing down fertilizer containing harmful bacteria like Bacillus and Erwinia. They are obtaining commissions through that as well. Don't make decisions based on how much commission you can obtain. We wish to tell the government if they had brought down Chinese waste to obtain commissions and if they imported water from India for commissions, they won't be able to both loot funds and destroy our lives. Get ready for that. We will bring farmers to dump waste at the parliament. Farmers of Walava organized a protest at the Agunukola Palace town. The government looted money through onions, sugar and lands. They are planning to loot money through fertilizer of about 70% of farmers. Where is the fertilizer when water is being released? How can we kill weeds using water? The hunger fast launched by farmers at the Bakamuna junction entered its 4th day today. Some civil activists expressed their support for the protest. Can we sell the harvest in the market after what they have done? How much have we spent on our fields? They are asking us to use organic fertilizer, but the crops haven't grown. This is what we have to show to the officials.
Against a backdrop where fertilizer is being brought to Sri Lanka from China and India, the production of organic fertilizer is being successfully carried out in Sri Lanka. cultivation lands in Akkarepattu and Galgamadua in Ampara are perfect examples of this. A group of journalists carried out an inspection tour at these fields today upon an invitation by the Department of Agriculture. The group first visited the Udaipura fertilizer storage facility located in Valatapitiya, Ampara. The nano-nitrogen fertilizer imported from India and other organic fertilizer that is to be distributed to farmers in the Maha season are stored at the Udaipura fertilizer storage facility.
We have planned to cultivate about 89,000 hectares of paddy this season. I would like to extend an invitation to the entire farming community to engage in farming with no fear. The policy decision this government took is being implemented now. I would like to encourage farmers to cultivate their lands. There can be lapses in an initiative. The President and the government accept that. The agriculture industry of the country took a 180 turn through this initiative. I would like to request the farmers of Ampara to come to their cultivation lands and be an example to all the other farmers in the nation.
Thereafter, the group of journalists visited the fields that are being cultivated by organic fertilizer in Galgamadua and Akkarepattu.
We have not missed a single spot in this field. We think it would be best if we would receive the organic fertilizer that was promised to us by the government on time.
Commander of the Army General Shavendra Silva and his Russian counterpart, Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Land Forces, General of the Army Oleg Salyukov, met for talks in Moscow on Monday.
The cordial discussions primarily focused on military matters of bilateral importance and cooperation.
Mr. General, this morning there was a ceremony to officially welcome your delegation in the heart of Russia near the Kremlin wall. And you know, these ceremonies are not organized for everyone, so we wanted again to highlight and to underline the importance of your visit, the importance of our relations.
Now with this type of a tour, that we expect to have a very close military relationship with Russian forces and the Sri Lankan forces. We are now trying to enhance our capabilities of our professionalism, and I'm sure that we can learn a lot. We can get a lot of support from the Russian armed forces, Israeli army. I'm trying to improve the professionalism in the army, so anything that can improve the professionalism as far as the equipment, training and any other area, that I welcome anything from the General and the Armed Forces.
General Shavendra Silva also visited Moscow Higher Combined Arms Command School. The Moscow Higher Combined Arms Command School is a higher military education institution of the Russian Armed Forces, formed in December of 1917 as the first Moscow Revolutionary Machine Gun Officers School.
Sri Lanka Navy formally took the delivery of the ex-United States Coast Guard cutter USCGC Douglas Munro, provided by the United States to Sri Lanka Navy in a ceremony held at the US Coast Guard base Seattle of Washington in the United States. The event was attended by Chief of Staff of the Navy Rear Admiral Y.N. Jayaratne. The ship formally joined the Sri Lanka Navy fleet from the 26th of October 2021 under the pennant number P627. This is the third such ship provided by the US Coast Guard to the Sri Lanka Navy. The Douglas Munro, which is 115 meters in length, is capable of attaining a maximum speed of 29 knots. The ship will set sail to Sri Lanka next year once its restoration is conducted and the Sri Lanka Navy crew designated for the vessel undergo training. The voyage, commencing from the port of Seattle across the Pacific and Indian Oceans to Sri Lanka, will possibly be the longest ever sea voyage a Sri Lankan naval vessel has ever sailed in Sri Lankan Navy history.
The United Trade Union Front of the CEB issued a warning today. They claimed a trade union action to allow blackouts to occur in the country would be launched from the 3rd of November if the government does not withdraw the agreement to hand over the Yugadanavi power plant to an American firm.
This is our last resort. That is to enter a trade union action. On Friday, we met with the Archbishop. His Eminence brought many things to our attention. We listened to what His Eminence had to say about the energy sector in Sri Lanka, ports and other national assets. We felt ashamed thereafter for idling for this long. His Eminence assured us that we will be supported by all followers of his religion. We are not isolated. On the 29th, all employees of the CEB will deliver an epistle to the President demanding this agreement to be withdrawn. On the 3rd of November, employees will abstain from their duties. Only those who are required for essential duties will stay back. It might be a hassle to restore power supply on the 3rd if such an event occurs. All regiments of the CEB will converge opposite the CEB headquarters on the 3rd. We wish to warn the government. After the 3rd, we will not mollycoddle you anymore. After the 3rd, we will launch a strike that will leave the entire country in the dark.
Meanwhile, the central bank says the first tranche of the investment by US company New Fortress Energy for the sale of shares of the Kerawalapitia power plant is expected in November or December this year. This is worth $250 million. The central bank has announced a 6-month roadmap on securing foreign exchange inflows to the country. It says Sri Lanka will receive $200 million from 2 transactions involving Chalmers granaries and the property behind one golf face in Colombo. The central bank adds that it is discussing with the Reserve Bank of India, People's Bank of China and several Middle Eastern central banks for foreign currency swap agreements.
The Satyagraha being held at the agitation site opposite the Presidential Secretariat, organized by protesting teachers, was met with heavy police resistance for the second day today.
The temporary shelter which was set up at the agitation zone in Galle Face was removed by officers of the Fort Police. Police notified the protesters to engage in the Satyagraha, refraining from setting up any temporary shelters. This is an agitation site. They cannot obtain a restraining order. Court will not issue such an order. They know it and therefore they used excessive force. Who will assist us? If an agitation zone was established, ensure the rights of those who protest are protected. At a time teachers are willing to engage in dialogue with the government, at whose behest are the police being sent? We remain vigilant on who is behind this.
The CID has informed the Colombo Magistrates Court it is investigating remarks made by Father Cyril Garmini Fernando recently. This is based on a complaint by State Intelligence Service Director Major General Suresh Saleh.
An event was held on the Zoom online platform on the 23rd of October to create awareness on the April 21st attacks in 2019. State Intelligence Service Director Major General Suresh Saleh had then filed a complaint with the Criminal Investigations Department. He had claimed that false comments were made about him at the meeting. The Criminal Investigations Department made submissions before Colombo Chief Magistrate Buddhika Sri Ragala yesterday. The CID had said it will inform court on the progress of the investigations that will be carried out after recording statements from all parties, including the complainant.
Up next is Crime Watch.
Crime Watch. Police have uncovered the second clue on the shooters who killed 2 people at a house in Mulleriava. 2 jackets and a helmet believed to have been worn by the shooters were found near the Neville Fernando Hospital in Malabar. A motorcycle was discovered in Kaduwala yesterday, making it the first clue in the case. Police have promised a cash reward of 2.5 million rupees for anyone who provides information on the whereabouts of the killers. The shooter is suspected to be a 30-year-old known as Ponnam Peruma Arachike Don Danushka Buddhika, alias Jile. The description released by the police say he has a tattoo from his shoulder to the elbow. Police said he is usually seen in Angoda, Himbutana, Mulleriava, Valigama, Midigama, Hikkaduwa and Gaul.
Crime Watch.
The official launch of Stories of Sri Lankan Women, organised by Every Story Sri Lanka, took place virtually this evening. Stories of Sri Lankan Women is a flagship work of Every Story Sri Lanka.
Every Story Sri Lanka's work primarily centres on storytelling and knowledge creation and sharing done in a myriad of ways. This work aims to bring to the forefront the stories of these girls and women from the 20th and 21st centuries and explore their life histories. The event was held together with the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Sri Lanka and the Maldives.
It is important that we understand that these stereotypes are here, but we don't have to accept them. And this is why this initiative is so important. And it is so important that the next generation actually gets this message. A country cannot reach its full potential if not everybody feels part of the past, present and future of the country.
The women featured in this first phase are diverse and each has their own compelling journey to share. This includes Mrs. Ferial Ashraf, Professor Savitri Gunasekara, Kasturi Chelaraja Wilson, Dr. Radhika Kumaraswamy and Jayanthakuru Tumpala.
The award ceremony of the annual Most Admired Companies of Sri Lanka 2021, organised by International Chamber of Commerce Sri Lanka, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants and the Daily FT, was held at the BMICH in Colombo this evening.
The event was attended by Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, His Excellency Gopal Bagle, and Her Worship Rosisena Nayaka, Mayor of Colombo. ICCSL Chairman Dinesh Virakodi, Ceylon Chamber of Commerce Chairman Vish Govindaswamy were also present at the event. Apart from companies, 5 eminent business leaders of Sri Lanka were also recognized under the Most Admired Leaders Awards category. Late Chairman of the Capital Maharaja Group, Mr. R. Rajamahendran, was one of the 5 most admired leaders who were recognized today. He was recognized for his outstanding contribution in the independent media industry. Current chairman of the Capital Maharaja Group, Mr. Shashi Rajamahendran, accepted the award on behalf of the late chairman this evening. The other admired leaders were Chairperson and Managing Director of Jetwing Travels Private Limited, Ms. Shiromal Kure, Founder Chairman of the Access Group of Companies, Mr. Sumal Pereira, Chairman, SoftLogic Group of Companies, Mr. Ashok Patrage, and Chairperson and Director of few subsidiaries of the Browns Group and the Chairperson of Asian Institute of Business and Science, Mrs. Rohini Nanayakara.
With that, we wrap up Primetime News. I'm Bernadine Jai Singha and the interpreter for tonight is Brian. Good night. Take care.